Hey everyone, Knox Hutchinson here. I want to tell you about how I went from a sales job to the director of IT and a trainer at CBT Nuggets in just a few short years. Here's how the journey went. When I graduated from college, I got my degree in 2008. My degree was in economics, and I loved economics. I was really, really good at economics. I'd like to tell people that I got A's in econ and C's in just about everything else because nothing else really kept my attention the way econ did. But 2008, probably the worst time in the history of ever that you could graduate with an econ degree outside of maybe the Great Depression itself. So there I was, 2008, bad economy, had a degree in econ that I couldn't use. What was I going to do? I got a job at a local insurance company selling insurance. And it was a great job. It's a really fulfilling career. And I gave that job my best for about 5 years. But I just wasn't good at it. It just wasn't for me. In selling insurance, it's awesome for a lot of people, but for people who are born and bred to be in tech, it's just not going to work out. So around 2012, 2013, I got a job working for the government as an economic researcher. It was a really good fit at the time because I had an econ degree, but I didn't really have any skills. But here's the real kicker. That wasn't the job that I applied for originally. That wasn't the job that I sought. You see, I had this interview for what was going to be a dream job. It was a different type of economic researcher. And I crushed that interview. It was an amazing interview, and everybody was like, that was the best interview we've ever had. But because I didn't have SQL querying experience on my resume, they couldn't hire me. So that right there, that event triggered something in me. That really made me realize that it wasn't about attitude. It wasn't about motivation. It should be. When I hire people, that's what I look for. But for them, it wasn't. It was simply about skills. And I didn't have the skills. So what I did is I got the skills. I went online and I started searching for places where I could get trained in SQL and get some sort of certificate of completion or whatever in basic SQL querying. And I got that. And that's what actually landed me my job working for the state government doing economic research. It was an amazing job because I was able to take a lot of processes that they had that were very manual and automate them. But at the same time, that's when we discovered Tableau. Tableau was up and coming. Tableau was rising. It was 2012, 2013. And Tableau was like, what is business intelligence? How can we make data fun and interesting? And we transformed that entire culture there, turning that organization into a data-driven, experience-based organization using Tableau. But one of the things that I realized pretty quickly was that Tableau is great and all, but if you can't query the data yourself, because I wasn't allowed to because that was an IT job, then you were kind of held back a little bit. So I had this SQL experience that I wasn't able to actually use, and I wanted to put that to use. So I got a different job working as a Backend Developer for a company that basically makes software for banks. And I did a lot of SQL and XML work. It was a really, really fulfilling job too. But what we had that situation was that the database people, the data gurus, and the networking team were speaking two different languages. One was speaking Japanese and the other one was speaking Greek. So I decided that the way that I could help bridge this gap was that I could learn networking. And it's so funny that the day that I decided to do this, we also got this email that was like, hey, we just got a bunch of subscriptions to CBT Nuggets, and we got a bunch of subscriptions to, well, I'm going to say a competitor because I'm affiliated with CBT Nuggets now. But I chose to actually go with the competitor. And after about a week, I was like, no, you can keep this. I'm going to go with CBT Nuggets. So I got CBT Nuggets, and I started watching Keith Barker's Network Plus course. This was around 2015 at this point. So I started watching Network Plus, and after about 4 months of studying and labbing, I took the Network Plus exam, and I barely passed. I just squeezed by, but I wanted to keep that momentum going, so I dove right into the CCNA training. But while that was going on, I went back to my employer and I said, look, I learned networking. Maybe I could serve in a role that would bridge this gap. And they told me no. So at that point, I transitioned to one of the best jobs I'll ever have at a company called IT Inspired. They're in Baton Rouge. They're a local MSP, a managed service provider. And they hired me. They hired me on the fact that I was motivated, despite the fact that I didn't have any real networking or systems administration skills. It was a real blessing for them to have taken me on because they were not afraid to throw work at me, challenging work. So within my first week, they took these like really huge Juniper switches and just dumped them on me and said, "Hey, we're converting these Cisco switches over here to Juniper. Do the conversion." And it was so cool for someone who was actually going through the CCNA at that time to like validate what I was learning and then learn Juniper on top of it. So because I was exposed to all of these amazing technologies and I had this amazing support behind me with IT Inspired, I ended up getting my CCNA, CCNA Security. I'm trying to think about the way I did it in order. CCNA, CCNA Security, JNCIA. Then I got my Tableau Desktop Qualified Associate certification. Then I got my MCP and SQL Database Administration, my Certified Meraki Network Operator. And then at that point, they told me to pause, and they really wanted me to beef up my Microsoft skill set. And after that, I spent about 14 months getting my MCSE. And I finally got my MCSE. This whole time, I've been like posting, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever I could talk about tech, I did. And simultaneously, I also started filming my own YouTube recordings, which was really, really cool. And I did this really cool video on how you can hack someone if they haven't closed out of a remote desktop session correctly. So I recorded that, and somehow or other CBT Nuggets got their hands on it. So CBT Nuggets reaches out to me, and I go through the whole interview process, and I get hired. And then within a week of that happening, the director of IS position comes up at the LSU Foundation, and a friend of a friend reaches out to me for that. So I've got CBT Nuggets going on. I've got the director of IS position going on. The coolest thing about it all is that both of my employers are so cool and they're so flexible about it. Really, between the LSU Foundation, CBT Nuggets, and IT Inspired, if you ever get the chance to work with them or for them, don't walk towards them. Run. They're amazing positions, and I'm the luckiest person on earth. But now that you've got a feel for the fact of how I kind of went from one position to the next, there's some real secrets and tips and tricks that I learned along the way. And I'm going to tell you about some mistakes I made and some of the fun lessons I've learned along the way in the next few nuggets. In the meantime, thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next.